He is the chosen one. You must see it.
I gave Qui-Gon my word.
Is he the chosen one?
He is.
And it is the Jedi who will stand in the way of peace.
It's not whether or not we fight.
It's how we choose to fight that matters.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
The Force will be with you, always.
And I will not be the last Jedi.
Listening to The World Between Worlds, a Star Wars podcast where we have been marathoning all of Star Wars in chronological order in lead up to The Rise of Skywalker. And today, we're talking about so much Rebels! This is going to be 4 different Rebels episodes. All are standalone, all focus on different groups of characters, and happen to have 4 panelists here. And so we're going to divvy it up that way. My name is Yates.
My name's Jordan. My name's Keats.
My name's Jessica.
We're talking about Season 2, Episode 6, Brothers of the Broken Horn. Episode 7, Wings of the Master. Episode 8, Blood Sister. Z. Episode 9, Blood Strike. Stealth Strike.
Blood Strike.
Blood Strike. Blood Strike.
Oh, Blood's on strike. It sounds like a 90s X-Men villain.
Brother Keats, Brothers of the Brothers of the Broken Horn. We're
sisters.
brothers. So in the first episode, Brothers of the Broken Horn, Ezra is going through as much of an identity crisis as a young 14-year-old boy can go through. Is he going to be a Jedi or is he going to be a pirate? Who's going to push him along that path? It's our old friend from the Clone Wars, Mr. Hondo Ohnaka.
Why didn't you tell me you were a Jedi? You know I am an old Jedi sympathizer. I know, I wouldn't believe me either, but one of my best friends was a Jedi. I'm pretty sure we were friends.
Well, I'm not really a Jedi yet.
Well, then be a pirate Jedi. We will make an excellent team.
Keats, so you had a good deal of fun with this episode. Was Hondo a big selling factor for you?
Yeah, absolutely. When the episode started, I thought this would be like a generic, like Ezra, not sure of himself. Ezra, like, oh, do I really want to be a Jedi? Do I really want to be in this crew? Because we've seen that so much already. But when he meets Hondo, it just like brings in this spark of charisma into the episode that's like indescribable. And I mean, that's his character in general, is just charisma. He seems one-dimensional because he's such like a smooth talker, but he's also kind of an enigma because you never really understand how he feels because money always gets in the way of that. But then you have like these little glimmers of like what he's truly like when he speaks to people one-on-one, like Ezra at the end of the episode.
What did you think of where they picked up Hondo's character from where we left him in Clone Wars? Because in Clone Wars, he seemed to have a lot of infrastructure and was like becoming more and more of a big deal in the underworld. He was like every other arc, he showed up by the end. Well,
I think the coolest thing about the Rebels TV show is that it's so far in the future compared to Clone Wars that they can really do anything with any of the characters they've already established. So the fact that, you know, Rex is like deserted on a planet and then Hondo is just still Hondo, like really makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
He seemed, I mean, I might be wrong because I turned to Keats and was like, where do I know that character from? Like, I've definitely seen him before, but I didn't remember if he was like a really bad guy or like a neutral guy. But I kind of remember him now as being like more of a badass. And like in this episode, he seemed much more tame and like nice.
Definitely. I think he's kind of, Jordan, you, if you recall way back, you really took issue with the fact that Hondo like held himself one-on-one in a fight with Anakin.
Like the last time we saw him, he was just this goofy pirate who wants money, and now all of a sudden he's just like a fighter who can take on a Jedi. I wasn't messing with it, folks.
Here, he can barely take on the absolutely disgusting and incompetent As Morgan. Thoughts?
I mean, accurate. it made sense. Yeah, I mean, he's an old man now. He even says it himself. He can't do it alone. I feel like he doesn't want to be alone. He tries to get Ezra to join his crew.
There's like a bittersweet quality to like the way he's portrayed here. It's like you still fall into his charm, but at the same time, you're like, I know where you came from. I know where you are now. Everyone here is making fun of you that sees you on screen. Like,
Also, you gotta wonder, like, how certain characters have changed after the Empire took over.
Yeah.
You know, like, maybe in a sense that softened him.
Yeah, made him more sympathetic.
He says he's a Jedi sympathizer.
Exactly.
Yeah, he constantly, like, fluctuates between, like, caring about others and then caring about himself. Because I remember, like, in the Jedi Padawan arc, he, like, basically kidnaps them, and he's like, find those kids, like, and he's really intense, and I'm like, dude, these are, like, children, you know? But then at the end, he's, like, he bonded really hard with the sniffly girl, and then he bonds really hard with Ezra.
It's nice to have some three-dimensional villains.
Keats, to close it out, thoughts on Ezra's journey by episode's end?
Well, one thing I wanted to get into is the beginning of the episode starts with Ezra claiming that he isn't sure whether or not he wants to be a Jedi or even a soldier anymore. And then he walks into the ship after Hera calls a meeting, and then Kanan's immediate response to Rex is, this is new. So my question for you guys is did you buy Kanan when he said that? Did you guys think that this was like probably like the first time Ezra's ever showed any signs of this? Or do you think he's being truthful?
Probably he's being truthful. He probably senses it, notices little things that Ezra does. But I don't think Ezra has probably said it as flat out and upfront as he has at this moment.
You definitely got the impression that it's like an escalation of whatever shit that Ezra's going through, like when we talked about like a few weeks ago now, it was probably the Empire Day episode where like Ezra's acting more childish than usual. Kind of feels like an extension of that. So for me, I would say I think the answer that you're fishing for, Keats, is that I think Kanan probably, there's a bit of his short-sightedness or ego in here because of this plot thread of like Kanan and Rex butting heads and that making Ezra uncomfortable. That's already been established in the previous episode. So the fact that Kanan is like, oh, this is new, it's like, is it? It's not really.
Yeah, because that's exactly the way I felt when I saw that episode initially. But when I was watching it with everyone else, I felt like that vibe didn't really get picked up by anybody. But
yeah, I didn't really see it like that. I kind of just like chalked it up to corny writing. Of just like,
it could be that too.
But no, I see your point though.
I don't think this was definitely a strong Ezra episode. I thought this was kind of like an example of like Ezra being like a follower. Like he kind of just like, you see him in situations where he does what's best for him. And, you know, he'll jump ship from like, he'll be with Hondo's side and then he'll be with Vizago's side.
I mean, when Ezra first did this, I was like, that is so fucking stupid. Like, obviously it's going to go wrong. Like, if this were real, then it would probably be like how you die and like be disastrous. And I thought it was going to be one of those things where the Ghost Crew would have to save him and they would be all mad at him. And then it would end with like Ezra learning an important lesson. But instead, like,
it all does though.
Well, but no, I feel like it was different than that because they weren't mad at him.
And I think also he kind of like, it seemed like he handled every situation as it came up in a more mature way, or like at least in a smarter way than he would have before. Like the second he brokers the deal with Hondo, he steals the little button that controls the droids and gives it to Chopper, you know, small things like that.
I felt like all of these episodes were kind of showing the progression of Ezra and how he can be more on his own now and hold his own. I also liked how, first of all, he ended up completing the mission that the others were trying to complete.
Yes.
Like, they were looking for the generators, so how mad could they be at him? But I would expect them to be like, you went off alone, like, never do that. But instead, Kanan took it as like, oh, it seemed like you needed that. Like, it seemed like you really needed to go off alone and get that out of your system and kind of come to some realizations. And he did.
It was really refreshing. I just thought it was pretty cool that at the end it turns out that Hondo played him the whole time, but then he actually like goes up to him and he's like, you know, I actually like kind of care for you a little bit. I thought that was like probably the sweetest thing in the whole episode.
Just so you know, at one time, I might have joined your crew.
Oh, Ezra, you truly are a Jedi.
Wings of the Master. A supply drop mission for some overworked and starved Imperial workers goes wrong. They cannot break the Imperial blockade. Deus Ex Machina, there is a secretly developed fleet-killing weapon that the Rebel Alliance really wants to get their hands on, and Kanan, in his wisdom, sends Hera to go. We get to learn a tad bit more about Hera's backstory, but more importantly, we get a look into her soul. Jordan! Wings of the Master. What was your favorite aspect of this episode?
You know, I love Quarry. Guy's my boy.
Yes.
I love B-Wings.
Yes.
I love Hera.
Yes.
I love Rebels.
Yes.
But I think the most fascinating thing of the episode, for me, personally, I loved just like what they were doing. It wasn't like them trying to get supplies or gas or stealing weapons or whatever, blowing up a new Imperial invention. It was just like them trying to like help some people that were starving. Mm-hmm. And I was like, shit, I want to be those people. Like, I just really fell in love with the Rebels even more in this episode and hated the Empire so much.
It's not necessarily most passionate about, but I really want some clarification about like who the people were on the planet that they're dropping supplies down to, and like what they're doing there. Like, are they resisting the Empire? Like, why is the Empire blockading them?
I think they were working for them, right?
Yeah, I think that they were like low-level workers of some sort. My guess is, since Agent Callus is there, this is all a ploy to ensnare the rebellion.
I thought there was like an uprising there, and then they like cut off their food, and then they put up like a signal like trying to get the rebels to come.
I think what they did say was that was the initial reason why they've rationed their food, is because there was some sort of dispute. I guess maybe the Empire was either working them too hard, maybe the workers were actually already in communication with the Rebel Alliance and this was discovered, and that is why they started rationing their food. But I believe the presence of Agent Callus probably means that at some point the Empire decided this is a good target to try and draw the rebels out into a direct confrontation and eliminate them. And they almost succeeded. But of course our rebels are awesome.
And I liked seeing the progression of like some of the rebels. I just love that in Star Wars, where some of the rebels take hits and you're like, no!
Yeah.
But then
the ship, the ship explodes right at the beginning.
I love when they like lose, because it makes you so much more invested. Mm-hmm. And then when you see the Empire get their shit blown up, it feels amazing.
Yeah. And it was great to get the spotlight on Hera. This is the first Hera-centric episode, and it most certainly delivers. It is really good.
Yeah, her speech is great, where she talks about Ryloth and the Clone Wars and wanting to be up in the sky. And
my mother hid us below ground, but I'd peek out when the Republic ships flew over, as they fought to liberate my world. I dreamt of nothing more than to be up there with them.
So you left your family to fight?
I left my family so I could fly.
As a combat pilot?
If we want freedom, we must make difficult choices. I chose to leave my family. I chose to learn to fly. And then I chose to use that ability to help others in need. But it's all rooted in something I can't explain. A need to be up there.
Even when they're losing, she still will not give up, because she wants that freedom.
Well, like the pilot is like another type of like archetype in the Star Wars universe.
For sure.
Is like the people who are like, I must fly.
Yeah. Anakin, Han Solo, Luke,
Yeah, exactly. And I love that they gave that to Hera. It's such a like badass thing for her to be called to, and I love how good she is at it. Mm-hmm. And I love like her facial expressions as she's flying, just the whole design of her character. I totally bought like her whole story and wasn't like, wow, this is a cheesy speech. I was like, this is a speech that's bringing tears to my eyes.
I was scared it was going to be cheesy, but it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
And I also like how they like did the refrain again about choice and like making choices.
And that's the difference, because Quarry's, we don't really know anything about his backstory. I guess he knows Rex on a first name basis, so I guess presumably he had some role in the Clone Wars or whatever. But what we know from this episode is that he just really wants someone of real moral responsibility to wield the B-Wing.
And once again, it's like another type of rebel who he's not like a backflippy fighter or a pilot even. He's like a nutty professor.
How many times have you flown it?
Me? Oh, I don't fly. Too dangerous. But theoretically, it should fly.
Theoretically?
Better to be down here, wishing I was up there, than up there, crashing back down here.
He's like mechanic, like recluse type, but like he has a role to play in destroying the Empire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, how the heck does he survive like on that planet? There's like nothing to eat.
He has droids.
Yeah.
I loved the planet, just the whole way it looked, and the whole station. Like I mean, really, I think everything about this episode was awesome. But I really loved that.
There was so much work and care put into like every single element. Like when they're out there and they're testing the B-Wing for the first time.
I love the pterodactyls. Sorry, that was
I love
my
that
favorite.
He eats pterodactyls. There you go.
Yeah, probably just like shoots him down.
I'm not vegan. Like when we got to the scene where they're testing out the B-Wing, it's just like the execution of it, the lack of music for the startup, and then like the high strings. Like one of the things you said about the fishing episode was that you love the music, and it's like this repeated pattern, I feel like, where whenever it's like a moment of originality, that's when like the composer really like tries to like fit in as much like new things as possible, really try and make it stand on its own, and it works every time.
That's so interesting, because I feel like I barely notice the music. Like it seems like a background element. It doesn't stand out to me like other things do, but maybe I'll start paying more attention to that.
Keats is like soundtrack noticing
master.
I own a lot of soundtracks. But even like the camera work, like the quick cut, the shaky cams, like they pulled out every trick they had. They probably had like 2 rock towers that they were actually using in order to like, but they made do with it and like actually like angle it in many different angles.
The shaky cam was awesome, and I noticed it because it shook in the way that like actual like plane footage looks, because it's wind resistance is what that is. It's like the camera is moving so fast that it's shaking just like the ship is. And the second I saw that, I was like, wow, this is like some of the best flying shit I've ever seen in Star Wars. I'm like, Dave Filoni directed this episode, and he's listed as co-director.
Isn't his grandfather a pilot?
Yes. Jordan, we've said that this was a great Hera episode, that and I think, are we all in agreement this was the best of the 4 episodes that we watched?
This was like the best episode of all of Rebels for me.
Yeah.
Like one of the best.
I really loved it. And Jordan, it was your favorite of the 4?
Correct.
What did Hera learn in this episode?
I didn't know I was gonna be quizzed.
You weren't quizzed. You're being moderated.
Oh my god. Even worse. What did she learn?
This is a good question, because we said the episode's so good. What did Hera learn?
Besides the obvious of learning how to fly the B-Wing.
Yes.
Dude, I don't know. She learned...
Yeah, I don't really know what she learned either, to be honest.
I mean, at the beginning of the episode, she seems like really yearning to want to go in for a second shot at tackling the Empire, but then Kanan guides her to like second guess that and to like restrain herself and to seek out help.
That's what I was kind of thinking too, is like something I liked about this episode was that Kanan was like
in the Hera role. He
yes,
switched.
Exactly.
He was pushing her to do things that she wasn't comfortable with.
Exactly.
I can't believe you volunteered me for this reckless mission. After what happened, the fleet needs me now more than ever.
True, the fleet needs a solution, but one that neither you nor Agent Callus are able to see.
Oh, are we talking in riddles now? Is that it?
Fine. You want me to spell it out for you? We can't beat that blockade. Not without a better ship, with better firepower, and the best pilot at the controls.
Even if this ship turns out to be everything we hope it is, I still might not make it back in time to help.
Then you better hurry.
You usually she's the advocate for other people, but he's the one like, okay, you finally like need to get a prize and need to get
an episode
recognized.
And
like,
an episode.
Yeah, you need to get like recognized for how fucking awesome you are.
And this is coming from Kanan, who was all like, I don't know about being part of the rebels. Like, I don't want to be a part of a military thing. But he's like, you know what? Hera needs a military promotion.
And he also, in the next episode, was like, aye, blah, blah.
Yes.
His arc is also progressing.
Blood Sisters. Sabine and Ezra and Chopper are sent to get some intel that will be vital to the survival of the rebellion. Sabine is put in charge of the mission when a figure from Sabine's past, a character known as Ketsu, arrives on the scene, and she is a gangster here for this very same information, and Sabine does her best to try and bridge the relationship that had fallen apart prior. I mean, so probably most significantly, we get a good deal more insight into Sabine's character than we did before. Firstly, we get a bit more details about her history in the academy. And then secondly, which is brand new information, Sabine had a brief stint as a bounty hunter, and it was her and Ketsu's dream to be big shot criminals.
Finally part of Black Sun.
Just like we always dreamed. I got the best weapons, best ship, and I'm feared across the galaxy.
Ugh, I can't believe I wanted that. The Black Sun are slavers and assassins who don't care about anything but body counts and quotas. They'd kill you too for a profit.
Saying it now, I mean, it really sounds like there are lots of similarities to Han Solo, who also started at the Imperial Academy and then also broke off and decided like, hey, I'm going to be the biggest big shot gangster in the galaxy. That it was at a point in time what Sabine wished for. And, at some point she realized that life didn't work for her. So I don't know. In one way, I felt like the type of origin story, for Sabine was kind of obvious. But I think it worked, and I think it fleshed well with her character. I also really liked the little bit at the beginning where, like, Ezra's just kind of talking to her and, like... Because whenever Sabine's, like, in the plot in an episode, it's normally she's just doing action-oriented stuff.
Yeah, I realized, like, in the episode before, she had, like, one line. Where she was like, hey, meeting, guys.
Yeah.
And that was, like, it.
And in this episode, like, Ezra just says, like, hey, like, you spend, like, a lot of time alone.
I like that part a lot.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time in your room, alone. And you actually tend to eat alone, sometimes. And combat practice alone, and go off probably to be alone. And, I don't know, I guess sometimes, I'll find you alone.
It was cute how Ezra was behaving and stuff, but it was also like, I think it gave a bit more insight into like how Sabine actually is, like every day. Like, she's a loner. Like she's a young, moody teenager, and and
in her room on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, and that's cool. I mean, that's her thing. But we see her step up to the plate a bit more and put herself out there for her old friend.
I did like that we got to hear her defending what the rebels were doing.
Yeah.
Because so much of her, she just seems so cynical, kind of. So it's nice to hear her say, like, we're helping people. Like, this is great.
While overall I thought the episode was solid, I didn't think it was amazing, but...
The truth is, Chopper was the saving grace of the episode.
God, I love him. He's so awesome.
Chopper was great.
All the humor came from Chopper.
Chopper was really funny in almost every episode.
Yeah.
Well, also, he's so smart. He's got tactics.
Dude.
What?
Like, okay, tactics. Tic-tac-toe. You have tactics to win. Is that like how they made the game? Dude, that's crazy.
That's probably the stupidest thing that's ever been said on the podcast.
Please keep that in. Please keep that in.
And I'm trying to remember. I edited something this week where I thought that was the stupidest thing that someone had ever said on the podcast.
Who was
but
it?
I don't remember. I'm trying to remember.
Please keep that in.
Yeah, Chopper's always...
God, I love him. He's the best.
Chopper's great. Chopper will get his own episode by the end of this season.
He does?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So
I remember
confident.
really liking it. Except it's right before the finale, so like you want to get to the finale, but instead you just get a little Chopper episode. But I remember it being very good.
Saving the day.
Keats, what was your least favorite part of Blood Sisters?
I just never felt like there were any stakes. Like when they were like doing a one-on-one fight, I never thought for a second like, oh, she's gonna straight up like tear her apart. Like when they meet in the middle and she's like, you're not gonna give me the droid, are you? I never thought there was gonna be a fight.
Yeah, for me, I thought that Ketsu turned good like way too fast.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
But I guess in my brain that could be A, because she's young and naive like Sabine, and that she was playing the role of this hardened criminal, but really maybe she was fishing for Sabine to like, things ended badly with Sabine. Has she figured things out more than me? And like maybe she's like playing the part of this badass, and then when she sees Sabine is like turned into this really headstrong and like is way better off than her character.
The coolest thing they could have done with Ketsuo is just make her a villain. They already intended for her to come back. They say that in the episode. So just make her someone who to oppose Sabine as a character, but that they can work together in the future. Like a Kylo Ren situation of just like, oh, I'm going to try and like get them to see the facts and see like what matters. It just felt so lazy. Like they're like, okay, we got to make a Sabine episode. What's like, okay, she's a character who's like she's really a recluse character. Like, but how do we write around that so we can know more about her? Oh, we'll just insert a new character to tell us everything about her.
I mean, to be fair, pretty much every episode in this arc was just like put two characters together and play them off each other. In this case, it was like a character.
Sure,
from
but like the Hera episode, it wasn't inherently to give us more information about Hera's backstory. That's just like a bonus. The whole take on the episode was that it was a new formula, it was a new genre take. It had so many new elements about it. This was just a standard Star Wars Rebels formula with Sabine's arc in mind, but it just didn't feel sincere.
What would you have done to improve it then?
I think the best possible way they could have done it is what they do in the future in the next season. Have her go through something that allows her to really figure things out for herself.
Great.
Ooh,
I would have switched out Ketsu and put Boba Fett.
Okay, stop. Jessica, how did you feel overall just in terms of, you were pretty bummed with the last Sabine episode. We all were. So in terms of improvements, in terms of greater intrigue into her character, how are you feeling right now?
I mean, at the time, I was like, yeah. But now that we're analyzing it, I'm like, meh. But to expand on that, I mean, I'm like agreeing with all of the flaws that you're pointing out. I didn't feel like that negative about it at the time watching it, but it's true. Like fun. This is like a Sabine episode, but she's still not that much more interesting. And I feel like she's like a Padme a little bit, where it's like, this is a cool trope. This is a cool thing. This is a cool thing. Let's throw all these things into her character, and like they don't know what direction to take her yet, I feel. And I kind of like the whole like blowing up the ship construct type of thing. Like it was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I thought the action was fine. It was just,
like,
I think,
kind of fun.
Yeah.
But it wasn't anything like that. You're right. Like the stakes weren't very high.
They just killed that droid though.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, that's so mean.
I know, and he seemed like
first time,
nice.
Though. I treat Chopper just like a friend. Let me kill this other droid I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that too, but then I'm like, yeah, but they do that with like humans all the time.
Yeah, Ezra was like, don't worry, I'm not gonna hurt you.
Hey, just so you know, when I escape, I won't hurt any of you.
Yeah, that's great, kid. I feel real safe.
And then after he kills like thousands.
By blowing up the ship. Yeah, all those people he saved are dead.
And we're all like, yay!
Yeah, a demon overlay on top of that.
I feel real safe. You should.
The last episode of the 4 is Stealth Strike, and on this mission, Ezra and Commander Sato fall prey to a new Imperial superweapon. It is a gravity well device that can pull you out of hyperspace. Ezra's in jail, and Hera sends, in typical Hera fashion, this isn't the first time she's done this, sends two people that are in open conflict on the ship to go and solve this life or death scenario.
She's such a teacher.
She is such a teacher, and she sends Kanan and Rex together, just the two of them, to break Ezra out. And Kanan and Rex have to bury the hatchet a little bit in order to save their little friend.
I am going to terminate you. Not like a soldier or honored veteran. Oh no.
You will be discarded and forgotten, like an obsolete piece of field equipment, and no one will know or care.
I will.
Jessica, what were your favorite parts of this episode?
Oh, there's like a lot to say, I feel, actually. So, Commander Sato, I want to know more about his character. Have we seen him before?
No, I remember when he showed up, I was like, is this a background character in the original movies? He's an original character.
Really?
And we get a little bit more insight into him gradually. Nothing like crazy, like earth-shattering, but he's around consistently, and over the course of time, we will get to learn more about him.
Well, he seems like a pretty solid character, just in that he's like believable. And I liked him with Ezra and how he was like, why are you here? Like, you're a runt. And then by the end of it, he's like, oh, this kid's got it. Like, this kid's, you know.
I mean, yeah,
nice.
he's like a 15-year-old kid, like on this, on the main. It's like Wesley Crusher in Next Gen. It's like, what are you doing here, kid?
I know this may finish me as an acting ensign, but shut up, Wesley.
Like that. I like the gravity well construct thing. I thought that was like pretty cool and Star Trek-y a little bit.
It is. I love instances where it goes just a little bit more sci-fi.
Yeah, me too.
I also think it's an old thing from the books too, which makes
Oh,
sense because
cool.
they would typically do more of the military sci-fi stuff.
I love seeing the band of rebels expand and how like each episode we're seeing like more join.
It keeps
That's
happening. It's really
fucking
cool.
awesome.
They
It's so
do it up
cool.
until the end of the show
And how-
where like, more people are at the table.
And how they all contribute. Like if they didn't have Rex right there, like he fucking, that was awesome. He made it so much easier because he knew those codes.
If we don't get some help soon, we're gonna have a 3376 on our hands. I don't think you're gonna want to have a 3376 off your starboard side now, would you, sir?
Shuttle S257, requesting your emergency access code.
Copy that, sir. Priority protocol 710.
This is the stuff I can't stand.
One of the things that really bothered me in the beginning of season 2, even all of season 1, is just that the show got like so saturated in like, all right, we got to look at the layout and see like how we're gonna pick our entrance. But there's guards here and there's guards there. All right, now we got to walk down this corridor really stealthily. And it was like that for like 10 minutes of the whole episode. That got
You mean
hung up on.
just like the technicalities of executing the action?
Exactly. But then like they're doing stuff like this where that's all happening, but it's like building character at the exact same time. So it's like you're having your cake and you're eating it too. Like you're doing two things simultaneously.
Right, like in terms of like by having to do that, like Rex and Kanan have to like agree.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That is such a fucking good point because also it's like we're seeing the same shit like over and over again, but it seems fresh. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
seeing like Kanan do his little like Jedi mind trick. I'm like,
it's the
ooh.
fourth or fifth time, but
yeah, but it's like this is well for me also just because I'm like an idiot. I'm just like, oh, that's cool. But also it's cool because you get to see like Rex witness that and like remember like what it was like with him when he worked with Obi-Wan and Anakin and da-da-da. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like, oh, this again. You know what did feel like, oh, this again? Is the whole, like, Rex, Kanan dynamic. I mean, I think that they just did a little bit of lazy writing there because it is different. I mean, they have their conflict because of the Clone Wars and the aftermath and everything that happened, but it just very much felt like a recapitulation
of what their relationship had been in the previous episodes, you mean?
Not even of what Ezra and Zeb were like at the beginning. It was all like a rivalry and I'm against you and I don't like your way, and then oh, but I have to save you because you're my friend, and now we're getting on the same side. It just felt very similar.
Yeah, both of those relationships like slide in as acceptable at the last possible second. Like if there was a whole nother episode about the Rex and Kanan conflict, I probably couldn't stand it. Yeah, one of the things that I talked about the last episode was that we were kind of disappointed that Kanan and Rex's relationship was just patched off screen, so it was just kind of cool to see that.
I believe that at this point, you know, a bridge has been made between the characters and they don't really dwell on that dysfunction anymore.
We're standing on a bridge.
So how do you feel about that?
I was thinking about
Jessica, with the knowledge that their relationship has, you know, reached a new state, like how do you feel about that at this point? That, you know, that part of their relationship is done? Are you excited for new things with them, or were you just happy with what you got in this episode?
I want to see them kiss.
Okay.
Only then will
Fair.
I be happy.
Cool. Got it. This has been The World Between Worlds. My name is Yates.
No, I mean, I feel the same as Keats of like, if there was any more of this, I'd be like, nah.
Yeah, I feel the same. It's you can't dwell on this type of stuff for too long, but usually they find good ways of.
And I thought it was kind of like funny / dumb / cute at the end, where it was just like a long scene of them saluting each other.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my god.
That's how the Hera episode ended too, with them
Yeah.
saluting. It was like very close.
We didn't even talk about that. That was the best part of the episode for me. That's the part where I got the most emotional.
Yes, and how she was so emotional, and her face is so fucking expressive.
Yeah.
Like the animation for her face is amazing.
Yeah.
Was there anything else with this? Oh, fucking Chopper! Yet again, my boy!
Can we just like have a new segment on the show, like the Chopper segment? Sure.
Chop. But like that was all his fucking plan.
Yeah.
What a brilliant plan. That was so brilliant. Like he could have just turned off the gravity wells. No, he destroyed like this multi-billion-dollar.
Yeah.
Like probably took them tons of time and resources to build.
Yeah, it was a
like,
prototype for a new weapon. Like,
oh, that is brilliant. It was so satisfying.
And it's also like a hilarious, just like thing in fandoms where it's like, did you know that Luke Skywalker is actually a mass murderer? But it's like they did that with Chopper, but in a self-aware way. That's just really smart.
Oh, but you know what else was some fucking classic Star Wars racism that pissed me the frick off?
Wait.
You said fucking and then you said frick. Fucking racism that pissed me the frick off.
Was it?
Let me tell you about this sordid tale of woe. This guy is like, thank you. And then it's like, thank all three of you. Thank all three of you? What about fucking Chopper?
Oh, now you're the big hero? It was a team effort.
He's the one! He did it! He's the guy. And he only thanked the humanoid. And that, I mean, I don't
Just
even...
like Chewie. Chewie doesn't get the medal in the original movie.
Up.
Didn't they give it to him in a comic or something?
They did, but
Can't
you know
believe
what?
they
They
had a whole comic about
They
that.
didn't give Chopper. They didn't make a whole comic about that. It was
in-
literally like one panel. It's like, here, Chewie. Sorry, we forgot about you. Let's go on to the plot.
No, it was in Tag and Bink where Boba Fett goes to Yavin 4.
They
and then
did
there's
it
a
canonically as well
They
in
did?
the Star Wars comic. Actually, I think it was
Bad idea.
the Leia comic. In any case,
I never want to see someone like punch someone on the shoulder again.
What are you talking about?
Like they do this all the time. Like
They do.
the characters
like
don't get
character-
along, and then they get along at the end, like punch each other
I
in the shoulder.
know.
Like, oh.
it was
It's
really
really
cute at the
stupid,
beginning. It was
yeah.
those were at a time Rebels could say it had the best shoulder punching, and now
In the galaxy.
in the galaxy, and now
It's got a lot of good hugging.
That should be an Olympic sport.
You know, when you two aren't fighting each other, you fight really well together. Jedi and clones. Now I get it.
Kids, you know, crazy ideas.
Yeah, you know, thanks.
So, that just about wraps up this episode of The World Between Worlds. Next week, we're going to be talking about Episode 10, The Future of the Force. Episode 11, Legacy. Episode 12, A Princess on Lothal. My name is Yates.
My name is Jessica.
My name's Jordan.
And my name is Keats.
And may the Force be with you always.
Thanks for listening.